I survived 100 days on a singular block with a special ability. Here's how this is gonna work. If I can survive through all 10 phases and beat the game while surviving 100 days, I've accomplished my goal. If I fail or die in the process, then I lose the challenge. Will I survive, or will I fail to beat the game and fall into the endless void? Watch to find out. Also, let's go for 10,000 likes and hit that subscribe button in 3, 2, 1, boom. Welcome to the squad. Without further ado, this is 100 days, one block. I spawned into the world for the first time, and the only thing keeping me from falling into the abyss below was this one block. You may think breaking this block would just lead to me falling into the void, but no. This block was special because every time you broke it, it would regenerate into a new one. The block gave me a few wooden logs and then a chest which had a couple of saplings. I built around the block so I could now safely mine it without having to worry about falling. I made a crafting table and crafted an axe so I could break wood quicker, and while I was mining, a pig spawned right here. It was trying to tell me something, so I went up and I listened to it. I got another chest which gave me some apples, and then I placed down a double chest so I could store my items and keep mining. The next chest gave me a water bucket which I used to place dirt under the regenerating block, so if I were to get any falling blocks, then they wouldn't drop into the void. I got another chest, but this one had a bunch of hearts coming out of it, so I think that meant that there had to be something good, like diamonds or golden apples, right? Oh, after I broke the chest, the one block started to upgrade. We have now entered phase 1, the plains. The one block is now able to generate common blocks that you can find in the overworld, such as different woods, more passive mobs, and clay. This is just phase 1 out of 10, so make sure to keep watching to see the next phases. After getting another pig, I decided to make a pen for these two on the side of the island. I pushed both of the pigs inside of the fences and got straight back to work. I got a cow, and since I had nowhere else to put it, I just pushed it into the same pen as the pigs, and after getting a sheep, I realized that I was gonna need a lot more space for these animals, so I put some more work into this one block to get enough materials needed to expand my base. I used some of the dirt that I had to build a little area that I could plant all the saplings I got, and with these saplings, I could start farming wood to expand my base instead of relying on the one block. Another chicken spawned, and this one was really cute. I think I'm gonna keep him as a friend. After trying to push a cow into the pen and having a ton of my animals escape, I realized I needed to resize the area a little bit. So I built around the place and added fences until I had the resources to build a completely new animal pen. Then I grinded the one block for the rest of day 2. On the morning of day 3, I had finally mined enough to advance into the next phase of the block. I waited out the 20 seconds and the upgrade was finally done. We have now entered phase 2, the underground. The one block is now able to generate blocks and mobs found underground, such as coal, iron, diamond, stone, and obsidian, but it now also has the chance to spawn hostile mobs such as zombies, spiders, creepers, or skeletons. I crafted up my wooden pickaxe and got to work on the stone. I was able to harvest enough cobble to make myself a pickaxe, an axe, a sword, and a furnace. While I was mining, the block spawned a mushroom cow. This was really good because if I crafted wooden bowls and milked this cow, I now had an infinite supply of mushroom stew. I got a second one not even a minute later, and I decided to keep it just in case something happened to the first one. After mining for a little while longer, a zombie spawned from the block. It was pretty easy to take out, but now I have to stay on my toes as to not get hit off my island. I expanded my island, and this saved me because a little while later a creeper spawned, and I used my platform to keep distance and kill it. I was really close to getting my animal pen blown up, but since I had a good reaction time, I was able to eliminate the last of the creepers. After gathering a ton of oak wood, I now started on finally building a bigger pen for my farm animals. I split it up into 3 areas and then decided to put 2 more areas at an elevation behind those. For the sheep pen, I filled the middle of the area with dirt and placed a block of grass in the center. I did this to allow the grass to spread since sheep need to eat it to grow more wool. I also sheared enough wool from the sheep to craft a bed which I could use to sleep the nights away. Finally, I crafted fences to outline the edges of these areas. When I completely finished getting each fence placed down, I made a bridge to each of the squares and started pushing the animals into their new homes. The sheep were relatively easy because it was a straight path, and the chickens weren't so hard either because I had seeds to lead them into their pen. But the cows took a bit of time, and after a lot of pain and frustration, I finally got 2 cows in. I know making the other 2 pens at a higher elevation would make it harder to push the mobs into, but I still stuck with my plan. I was able to push the mushroom cows in by building walls around, and after I finished that part, I planted down a ton of saplings to farm for wood again later on. The island was getting pretty full from saplings, so it was going to be a priority for me soon to make a dedicated tree farm area. Anyways, I pushed the last 2 pigs into their pen, and I cleared up all of the old structures and debris and placed carpet on each fence to allow for me to easily pass through. I also had a pretty good idea. Since a lot of hostile mobs were spawning, I mined a large area behind the one block to hit any mobs into right as they spawn. This would throw them into the void, preventing me from taking damage or even even having a creeper explode my base. It was getting really hard to move around my base, and I finally decided that I was gonna get rid of all the trees to finally clear up the island. So I took some time to chop down all the trees on my base, and I gathered all the saplings that fell afterwards. I then started construction on my official tree farm. I started off only going for oak wood since that was my favorite wood, and I didn't really have enough resources to build a farm for other trees yet. I built a pathway down the middle with oak slabs to create a passage for me to walk, and then I used stairs with dirt in the middle to set an indication for where each sapling would be planted. I made sure to space out each marker with enough space to have each tree to grow, and since I didn't want them to be cluttered together, I made sure to do the math and have each tree exactly one block from each other. After that, I built up for each block and placed a slab right where a normal tree would end, and I did this because it would then prevent any abnormal trees from growing, which have branches hidden in the leaves, making them really annoying to harvest. With this method, I should only be growing shorter normal trees since the sapling can't grow through the slab that I placed. I also realized that I used too much oak wood here and I didn't really like it, so I switched it up by replacing it with spruce stairs. Lastly, I built an archway as an entrance for the farm and finished the base for the tree farm. I'm planning on expanding this later on. By the morning, I spent as much time as possible mining the one block. I wanted to get more resources to build with as well as advancing into the next phase. I was interrupted by a few zombies and spiders in this process, but nothing I couldn't handle. After mining for a long time, I finally reached the threshold for the next phase of the one block. We have now entered phase 3. Winter. The icy depths of the one block have now emerged as we are greeted with new blocks such as snow and ice, but the main focus of this phase is on the new mobs that it brings, such as wolves, foxes, strays, and polar bears. The one block was instantly spawning snow blocks off the start, and it even gave me a wolf. I didn't have any bones to tame it, but I didn't want to push it off, so I gently moved it out of the way and got back to mining. I also realized that with the snow blocks I kept getting, I could build snow golems around my base because they look pretty cool and they can help fend off hostile mobs. I built a little hovering watchtower above me with a snow golem in it, and I have no idea why I did this, but I'm putting it in the video because I still think it's kind of funny. After mining some more, I came across my first set of strays, and because my snowman army shifted their focus away, I was able to hit them off the edge with no problem. My inventory was also overflowing with items, so I took the time to gather wood and build a little storage unit on the side of my base. I placed a total of 27 double chests and made the area look nice as well, so I could come here and store any items needed. This should be enough storage for the rest of this playthrough, so I don't think I'm going to need to expand it at least anytime soon. I also got some snow foxes, but these animals prey on chickens when left unattended, so I killed them before they can get to any of my chicken coops. Also, wolves prey on sheep, so I unfortunately had to put down the previous one as well. I decided to pretty up the area where the one block was, but as you'll soon see, this was probably not going to be the best design for it. I put fences around so that animals couldn't escape, and so I couldn't get attacked as easily, and it worked for a pretty good amount of time. I was able to kill any animals that were spawned, and I trapped any strays that were out for my blood. Unfortunately, an army of monster guards exploded the area, and I got really scared, so I ran back, but after realizing that they only had leather armor, I went back in. The snowman in the watchtower was actually helping so much, so I was super glad that I built him up there, but I don't think snowmen do any real attack damage, so I ended up having to finish off the guard myself. When I got back to work on the one block, I encountered more strays and zombies, but no more guards showed up, which was a really good sign. I didn't realize how long I actually mined for, because in the middle of the grind, I actually upgraded again to the next phase. We have now entered phase 4, the ocean. This is one of the big phases, because not only are we now introduced to colorful blocks such as sponge, prismarine, and coral, but we now also have the chance to spawn dolphins, turtles, drowned, and fish when mining the one block. I started off by getting regular ocean type blocks like sand and prismarine, and I just wanted to grind the block out for a while, so I did this until I stumbled across some turtles. I frantically tried saving these guys, but before I could do anything, I had to watch as one of the turtles performed a sneak attack on the other turtle and killed him. I don't think he could live with himself after what he's done, so I couldn't have done anything else but to sit back and watch him relinquish his soul back to the heavens. After that emotional roller coaster, I finally got my first ever diamond ore from the block, and you could just see how excited I was to get one singular diamond here. Anyways, I grinded some more and ran into a squid that just wouldn't die, so I had to push it into the void, and I got a drowned zombie with a trident. I thought having a trident would be really cool, so instead of throwing the zombie into the void, I carefully tried killing it on my island to hopefully drop the trident. Unfortunately, the odds were not on my side, and I just wasted my time. I spent too much time just mining this one block, and I ran into some pretty weird things like fish and guardians, but none of that even compared to the block spawning an elder guardian. I tried killing it as fast as I could to not be cursed with mining fatigue 3, but unfortunately I was just too slow. It didn't really matter too much though, because I ended up killing the elder guardian, grabbing a bucket to milk one of my cows, and getting rid of the current potion effect. A dolphin spawned on the one block, and I frantically tried saving it by placing blocks and water around it. I didn't know what to do, and I was trying to think of a really quick solution to save this animal because it kept suffocating and taking damage, but the dolphin decided that it would rather be dead than than to live anywhere near me or my island. So I watched as it made its leap of faith into the unknown. I wanted a better system of collecting the drops from the one block, so I decided that it would be a good time to build a hopper focused storage system under my base. I started by clearing an area in front of the one block and placing water down, and I crafted a good amount of hoppers to use for this project. I used the water source to float under my base and build a little platform for me to work, and I used prismarine for the walls and floors of the little storage area because I just thought it would look the best. Then I placed 3 hoppers behind the one block with a chain of chests leading down into the newly built room below. Whenever an item were to be thrown into one of the top hoppers, it would make its way down somewhere in this storage system below. I then placed signs behind where the hoppers were placed, and I used water sources to fill the areas around to flow the item drops into the hopper system. In theory, this should also push any mobs spawned by the one block into the void below. I checked to see if the hopper system was working, and sure enough it was. I was really proud of myself until another team of monster guards showed up and destroyed all my hard work. These guards consisted of drowns and guardians, which fit the ocean theme pretty nicely. But anyways, it was pretty easy to take out these mobs. The only annoying part was having to rebuild all the work that I just finished a couple of minutes ago. It was finally a new day, and I had a specific goal in mind here. Since I had no way of feeding my cows and sheep, I decided that I was going to officially build a section on my island for farming. I started off by placing a large amount of dirt on the side of the island and squaring it off to complete a nice area. After finishing that, I harvested as much wood as I could from the tree farm, as I would need it to start working on this area. I built 2 block high wooden pillars along the corners of the area and finished off the perimeter by lining it with oak fences. I then dug 1 block holes, each all 6 blocks away from each other, and placed water in each one to keep my crops saturated, and I waterlogged wooden slabs over top each of these so I could easily walk along my farm without falling into any of the holes. Lastly, I used a hoe to till most of the nearby grass into farmland so I can plant my wheat and melon seeds, and I planted down every last one. When I went to mine the one block, I realized that my water was gone, and I'm pretty sure this happened because of the sponge that spawned earlier. So this time, I placed the source at an elevation to hopefully be far enough to not get soaked up by the sponge, but instead of this working, another sponge spawned and completely got rid of the source again. So I built up more, grabbed some more water, and went to test this again. After mining for a while, I got another sponge and it soaked up the water again. So I built up the wall again, grabbed some more water, and placed it another block higher this time. After getting another sponge and having the source removed one more time, I got frustrated and built up twice this time to hopefully finally fix the problem. So I did just that and placed the water super high, and when I went to test it by getting another sponge, it finally stopped removing the source at the top. I got another chest from the one block, and this one supplied me with my very own trident, which I was super excited about. This was the last chest until I finally moved on to the next phase. We have now entered phase 5, the jungle. This phase brings about just a couple of blocks such as jungle logs and mossy cobblestone, but the main focus of this one is the mobs that it brings, such as parrots, ocelots, and pandas. I immediately started checking out this phase and got a couple of parrots which got pushed into the void. Thankfully, parrots can fly, so when I saw it come back up, I ran over to my crops to get some seeds to tame it. It took all of my seeds, so I had to take another trip back to the farm to get enough to finally tame the parrot. I'm gonna name him Riley. I took Riley on my shoulder and put him in a safe spot at my base, and as I was fighting some vexes that spawned around my base, I realized that the other parrot was still nearby at my farm. So I completely demolished my crops to get more seeds and try and tame the other parrot, and after making another trip and stripping my farm of seeds, I finally tamed the other parrot. I'm going to name this one Ainsley. I finally have a friend for Riley, so I put Ainsley down in the same spot and left the 2 lovebirds to sit while I continued my journey. A few ocelots also spawned, but I didn't really even care about them since I didn't have fish to tame them, so I let them float into the void, and I finally grew enough wheat to breed some of my farm animals, and this was going to be the start of expanding my animal farm. I also realized that if I was going to expand my farm later on, it would probably be wise to make a nicer looking path area for it. I used my previous prismarine blocks to outline the outer edges of my animal pens, and then I used a different type of prismarine to fill it all in. Then I connected it to the rest of my island with the same design. Dark prismarine for the outline and regular prismarine as the fill. I put some finishing touches with the stairs and guardrails for the pens, and I even filled each pen with grass as the floor because it looked much more natural for the animals. At a certain point, it felt like I used way too much prismarine in this build, so I decided to fix that by adding more grass in the center area to make it look much more natural. I also came across mobs spawning on the outer edges, so I killed each one I saw and placed torches all around the area so that would no longer happen. I really wanted to get more XP for future enchants, and the best way to do this was to build a mob farm somewhere on my island. I built out a few blocks away from my farm and began construction. I placed 2 chests to collect the drops and put hoppers above with slabs on top. This is going to be where the mobs will land so I can hit them, take their XP, and collect their drops all at the same time. I then lowered the floor to a good spot where I could hit the mobs. After this, I built a square tube out of spruce wood around the falling area and built up 22 blocks from the stone slabs at the bottom. The reason I'm making this so tall is to hurt the mobs with fall damage, bringing them down to 1 hit. I then water bucketed back up and built out on each side to funnel each water stream towards the center. Next, I built built a 2-block high wall around every path and extended a platform on all 4 sides to create a big enough spawning area. Once I did that, I built a 2-block high wall again, but this time it was around the entire spawning area for the mobs. If you remember from my last video, placing open trapdoors over a gap will make mobs think that it's a full block, but in turn they will just fall through. This is the mechanic I'm going to be using to trick the mobs into falling into a water source that will push them down. I placed each water source down on all 4 sides, cleared up the torches so it would be dark, placed slabs on each spawning platform to reduce the number of spiders spawning, and built the roof over top. I also made sure to place torches all over the top of this thing so the mobs would spawn inside of it instead of on top of it. When I went down to the bottom of the spawner, I extended the pathway towards the build and started killing mobs. This was working way better than I thought it was. I was getting about 1 mob spawn every 3 seconds, which was letting me farm over a stack of bones and gunpowder in only 2 minutes. I also didn't even need a weapon to kill these mobs. Since the fall damage brings their health down to 1 HP, I'm able to hit every single one of these things with my fist, which was super convenient. I returned to my base to cook up some chicken for food and slept the night away. When I came back in the morning, I spent some time grinding some more XP, and I don't know why, but it's just so addicting for me. For some reason, a creeper ended up exploding the bottom, which was a pain to fix, but after I got that done, I went back to grinding for a little bit. I finished the area by building a perimeter around the bottom with fences lining it so I couldn't fall, and for now, the mob spawner is finally complete. One really good thing about having a mob spawner is that I get tons of bones, which allowed me to make a lot of bone meal to grow my crops and expand my wheat farm. I then harvested the wheat and used it to breed more cows and sheep. I've gotten so obsessed with my mob farm that I completely forgot about the 1 block. So instead of paying attention to that, I shifted my attention towards grinding out the 1 block and getting to the next stage. I got my very own horse from the 1 block, so I built him his own pen on the side of my farm and tamed him. I didn't have a saddle or armor yet, so I just kept him there for now. It's not like I have much use for a horse on this world anyways. I also got a panda and thought it was pretty cute, so I captured it on my island as well. And after mining for a while longer, another monster party had arrived. This time with vexes, witches, and spiders. These monster attacks were getting more and more difficult. I even had to stop by my mob farm to pick up a bow, which I used to shoot down the vexes that were trying to fly away. After finishing off the last spider, I repaired the blocks around my 1 block for what seemed like the 20th time and got straight back to mining. I mined for a super long time, but it was worth it because I finally advanced onto the next stage of the 1 block. We have now entered phase 6. The swamp. This phase introduces new blocks such as coarse dirt and podzol, but the main focus of this phase is towards the new mobs that it brings, such as slimes, villagers, and evokers. I wanted to have more space on my island for a better living area, so I spent a lot of time building out a nice area to build on top of. I used oak slabs for the base, but as you'll soon see, I actually add another layer over top of this. After I was satisfied with the amount of space that I built out, I placed torches across the entire thing and returned to my base. I did a lot of things, such as grinding out my XP farm, mining some of the 1 block, and tending to my wheat farm. I also breeded my cows and sheep once again and brought some balance to my island before my next project. Just so you guys know, I haven't forgotten about my pigs, okay? I took some bones from my XP farm, crafted it into bone meal for my carrots, and farmed these so I could breed my pigs. See, I haven't forgotten about these guys. I promise. Like I mentioned earlier, I made another layer on the platform made from wooden slabs, and I made this out of dirt because I was planning on building a foundation for a house on top. So I spent time just filling in the entirety of this thing, which was like 5 stacks of dirt, and then I used oak wood to start the columns of the house. I just want to say that I'm not an amazing builder whatsoever, and I tried my best to make this look good, but I already know I'm gonna have some pro builders in the comments come after me, so I apologize if it looks bad. I like planning out the foundation of the walls before I start building because it gives me a good idea of how big the house will be and where everything will go. While I'm building this house, now would be a good time to remind you to subscribe now. If you enjoy 100 days videos, then you really won't regret it. Also, I'm really trying to hit 10,000 likes on this video, so if you could just take 2 seconds to go down there and hit it real quick, that would really make my day. I spent a ton of time on this video, and that's all I really ask in return. After finishing the spruce floors in the base, I outlined the base in oak wood and placed stairs and fences where the entrance would go. After that, I built out the walls of each side in oak wood and also left some spaces on some walls for putting windows in the future. The first floor was now complete, and it was now time to build the stairs up to the second floor and begin designing that. I did a similar design as to using oak planks for the walls and spruce for the floor and ceiling. The house was really starting to come together, and I was super happy with it. I forgot to add torches overnight, so when I returned to my house the next day, the house was filled with mobs such as spiders and skeletons, and there were 3 creepers all just waiting by my stairs. I managed to kill every single creeper without blowing anything up, but when I went upstairs, there was another creeper waiting for me in the corner. So I killed that and another spider that was also waiting and placed torches around the place so it wouldn't happen again. Now it was time to start construction on my roof. So I grabbed spruce planks and lined the top of the foundation with it. I built up across each side of the roof, and once I finished the spruce outline for both the smaller and bigger portion of the roof, I moved on to filling it all in with oak stairs. This part was pretty self-explanatory, so I'm gonna skip most of this building process. And once I finished the roof, I added finishing touches such as windows, plants, lanterns, and bushes. The house looked really good now, and I was very happy with the finished product. I brought Riley and Ainsley with me to the house and finally gave them a cozy spot to live in instead of on the floor of my island. Lastly, I built planks and fences that led to my house and completed the build. I built out one last area out of wooden planks on my island so I could make room for my super smelter. If you don't know what a super smelter already is, it's a minecart powered hopper system with 16 furnaces that can smelt a stack of any item in under a minute. To start it off, I placed 2 chests and 16 hoppers that all connected in a line towards the chest. After this, I placed furnaces along the top of each of these, and then I funneled 1 hopper into each furnace from the back. Finally, I placed another set of hoppers along each furnace, this time on top of the furnaces. I built out a little more since I needed some extra space to work on this build, and continued by placing blocks on either end of the hoppers with powered rails on each of these blocks. I then connected both sides with powered rails the full way through and used a block with an activated lever to power these. I also placed levers on one side of the auto smelter and placed 2 double chests along the other side. After placing minecarts with hoppers down on the rails, I used 2 more levers for the front of this that I could use to control when the minecarts should run, and when I tested this machine by putting raw iron in it, I activated it and it instantly got to work. When I checked the chest on the other side, it was outputting iron bars at a really fast rate into the double chest. I finally finished off by extending the area once again and actually connecting it to the rest of my base, and I got back to working on the 1 block. While I was mining, I found an ocelot and I spent a ton of time trying to tame it when I finally realized that you actually can't tame ocelots anymore. Instead, I gained the trust of this ocelot and used a lead to keep it in my base for now. I then got back on track and continued to mine the 1 block for the rest of the day, and after mining for a super long time, I once again advanced onto the next phase of the 1 block. We have now entered phase 7, the desert. The 1 block now has the ability to spawn new blocks such as sandstone, red sand, and mushroom blocks, and it also now has the chance to spawn new mobs like husks, cats, and phantoms. Like I mentioned before, I wanted to expand my tree farm at a certain point in this playthrough, so I decided that on this day I was going to expand my oak trees and also build an entirely new section for spruce trees. I built out with slabs all 5 blocks away and set a marker for where each tree would go. When I came back to my builds in the morning, I forgot to torch up the area and came back to some mobs being spawned on my platform. I killed them and continued to work on the farm. I didn't want to build too far out, so I turned the second part of this farm 90 degrees so it would wrap around my island more. I then finished building out for each tree and I started placing dirt on each side. Like before, I used spruce stairs to outline each piece of dirt to make it look nicer, and I built around each of these with oak slabs. Apparently, I'm really bad at remembering things because when I came back to work on the farm in the morning again, more mobs kept spawning, which made it really annoying to have to keep clearing them out. Anyways, after I finished filling in each gap with wooden slabs, I then built up for each tree and placed a slab to stop the tree from growing too far. I didn't need to do this for the spruce trees, however, because these types of trees won't grow out of whack like the oak trees. I then placed saplings for both the oak and spruce, finally placed torches along the sides of the newly built sections, and headed back to my base. I also built out another area where I placed sand along the top so I could build my sugarcane farm. After the sand was placed, I used water to fill in the gaps along the middle and the sides, and I placed my sugarcane all along the sand. I didn't have enough sugarcane to fill up everything yet, so I would have to complete this later. Then I waterlogged oak slabs over top the middle water stream so I could walk on it, and also place torches to stop mobs from spawning. I wanted to keep mining through the 1 block so I could get to the next stage, so I spent a super long time sitting here and holding left click. Each phase of the 1 block is about 2,000 blocks until you get to the next one, so I skipped most of the mining for you guys and just include the good parts, so just know I'm spending a lot of time actually mining it. I also kind of realized that we were getting pretty far in and my armor and tools were kind of mediocre, so I grabbed all the diamonds that were previously collected from mining and I made a full set of diamond tools and armor with these. This made mining the 1 block a lot easier for me. This phase kept giving me a ton of colored concrete, so for whatever reason I thought it would look cool to make a coil shape on my mob spawner with yellow concrete. When I went back to the 1 block, I actually got a Siamese cat to spawn and I really wanted to have it as my pet, so I grabbed some cod and went up to it and I made it my friend. When I took him over to my house, I disposed of the wannabe cat near my base and sat the new one down on my bed. I'm gonna name him Merlin. I encountered another monster attack and these guys were becoming stronger and stronger by the minute. Thankfully, since I made a hole behind the 1 block, I was easily able to hit all of these guys into the void right as they spawned and repair all the damage. After that disaster, I kept grinding and finally advanced onto the next stage of the 1 block. We have now entered phase 8, the Nether. This is one of the biggest phases because the 1 block is now able to spawn blocks such as netherrack, ancient debris, and obsidian, which will allow us to enter the Nether, and it is now able to spawn mobs from the Nether such as striders, hoglins, and piglins. When I went to bed, I heard a ton of monsters near me and I didn't understand how that was possible because I had torches placed down everywhere. So when I went to check, I realized that they were on the ledges on the back of my house. So I led them towards me and took all of them out. While I was making a pathway towards my sugarcane, I almost lost all my stuff by breaking a dirt block in front of me and falling into it. Thankfully, I caught one of the water sources from my farm and made my way back up. A lot of my sugarcane had finally grown, so I harvested it and planted it down on the remaining sand blocks. I then immediately started grinding the stage so I could get enough obsidian to finally enter the nether. I got a ton of netherrack, basalt, and warped blocks, and I also started to finally get some obsidian. Since warped blocks are more efficiently mined with a hoe, I now had a use to make an iron hoe and use it to mine them. Some piglins also spawned, but they didn't do much damage and fell straight into the void. And then I got my first piece of ancient debris. 3 more of these and I'll be able to make a netherite ingot. Then after more netherrack, soul sand, and ancient debris, I finally acquired 10 pieces of obsidian, which is the exact amount needed to build a nether portal. So after I grabbed the blocks, I prepared to enter the nether. I built a bridge out of nether bricks and made it 2 blocks wide, and then I made an outline for how big I wanted the island to be. It wasn't going to be too big since I was just going to use it for my nether portal, so I made it a small circle and filled it all in with netherrack. I then built stairs leading up and a wall made from nether bricks with railing along the sides. I also built some broken, abandoned looking fences on the sides and corners to give the area a better look. Then I built the outline for my portal with obsidian in the middle and placed a ton of netherrack around it with a couple of lava sources on the sides to give it a better look. After getting caught on fire and having to save myself, I prepared all of my gear and items to go to the nether. I also decided now would be a good time to use the wither skeleton egg for some reason, so that happened. And then I finally lit the nether portal. I made sure to craft a shield so I wouldn't die, and when I entered the nether, I got a pretty secluded spawn that was safe from most mobs and structures. When I was exploring, I found a fossil made from bone blocks, which I mined a lot of because if you didn't know this, bone blocks break down into a ton of bone meal, which could be really good for my farms. I then went to a really open area in the nether and turned my render distance all the way up to 18 to search for structures around, and sure enough, I found a nether fortress peeking out of the wall. While I was making my journey there, I got attacked by ghasts and skeletons in the soul sand valley, but managed to get past them pretty quickly. When I tried entering the fortress, I was immediately introduced to wither skeletons, which really scared me for some reason, but after I cleared them all out, I started fighting all the blazes in the area. It was pretty easy taking out all of these things with my sword, and when I finished killing about 8 of them, I already had 5 blaze rods. I then killed more wither skeletons and blazes, and found a rune portal on the side of the fortress, which ended up giving me a golden apple and some gold tools. And I then killed about 5 more blazes after this, which got me up to 10 blaze rods. While I was exploring, I got into a fight with a couple of hoglins, and while I was running from them, I somehow stumbled across a bastion. So I killed the hoglins and started mining the gold around me. I wanted to trade with the piglins to try and get ender pearls and fire resistance potions, but when I entered the bastion, I instantly started getting chased by piglin brutes. These guys do a ton of damage, even to my full diamond armor, so I kept having to back off, and I killed each brute off one by one. After that, I distracted the piglins by throwing them gold, and I looted the bastion chest, but didn't really get anything that amazing. I then decided to just keep trading with them so I could leave the nether. This time I actually got some pretty useful things from the piglins, such as spectral arrows, fire resistance potions, and ender pearls, and after trading for a little while longer, it was finally time for me to venture back into the overworld. While I was heading back, I encountered a ghast and really wanted to hit a fireball back at it to get the epic advancement. After a ton of failed attempts, I got the perfect deflection on the fireball and achieved the return to sender advancement. I then mined some quartz for some extra XP and finally made my way back to my portal. I came home to Merlin sitting on my bed, and in the morning I got straight back to work on the regenerating 1 block. I really wanted to make it to the end so I could beat the game, so I spent a ton of time here. I also had 23 pieces of ancient debris, so I went over to my super smelter and tossed it all in. When I went to the output, I received my 23 netherite scraps in return. Then I went digging through all of my chests and ended up finding 8 gold ingots and 34 raw gold. So I smelted up all of the raw gold that I had to come to a total of 42 gold ingots, and I went over to my base to start crafting netherite gear. I crafted 5 netherite ingots, which was a really good start. I then crafted a smithing table out of planks and iron, placed it down near my furnace, and upgraded my chest plate, leggings, sword, pickaxe, and helmet. I wanted to also enchant my gear to make me even more overpowered, so I grabbed 2 diamonds from my chest along with 4 obsidian and a book, and crafted an enchantment table to go upstairs in my house. I built out a nice spot with bookshelves next to Riley and Ainsley and started enchanting my netherite gear. First off, I enchanted my leggings with protection 4 unbreaking 3, my axe with efficiency 4, my helmet with protection 3, my chest plate with unbreaking 3, my boots with unbreaking and depth strider 3, my sword with sharpness 4 and unbreaking 3, and my pickaxe with efficiency 4 unbreaking 3. I now have extremely good enchants on all of my gear to now survive the rest of these 100 days. When I was mining, my soul actually left my body when a ghast spawned in the structure and started screaming in my ear. After I nearly died from that jump scare, a couple of blazes spawned, and I tried ignoring them at first, but I then decided to just kill them, and I was completely oblivious to the fact that my island was burning without me noticing. Since I now had an efficiency 4 netherite pickaxe, mining all of these blocks became super easy. Another set of blazes spawned, and these guys were being really annoying because their fireballs were burning down my trees and my base. So I got rid of them as soon as possible and repaired repaired the areas. After that, I got really unlucky because another monster party had spawned with more blazes, magma cubes, and gas. When I finally cleared out every single one of them again, I repaired all the damages and got back to work. I finally mined enough ancient debris to craft 2 more netherite ingots, and with this, I upgraded my diamond boots and my diamond axe. I then went over to my house to enchant my trident up to level 30, and when I did it, I got super lucky with Unbreaking 3, Loyalty 3, Impaling 4, and Channeling. This was a godly trident. I then grinded more XP at my mob farm because I had one last thing that I wanted to enchant. I grabbed bows from my mob farm to make a new bow and enchanted it with level 30. I got power 4, Unbreaking 3 on the first bow, but this wasn't enough. So I crafted a new bow, grinded more mobs until level 31, and went to enchant another bow. The enchantment table wasn't giving me the enchant that I wanted, so I reset it with a level 1 stone hoe enchantment, and then used my level 30 enchantment on the bow for infinity. Finally, I combined the 2 bows and an anvil for 8 levels to create a power 4 Unbreaking 3 bow with infinity. Since I was already so stacked, I decided to go all out. And what better way to end it off by making a diamond shovel, upgrading it to netherite, and grinding more XP to finally level 30 enchant it with efficiency 4. I was done fooling around, and I just wanted to make it to the end I mentioned. So I spent the rest of this day mining the 1 block until I finally upgraded to the next stage. We have now entered phase 9. Desolation. This is the very last stage until the end. This phase brings about every block from before, while also adding blocks like honeycomb, hay, and terracotta. The 1 block can now also spawn bees, which I guess is pretty cool. Like I mentioned before, I really wanted to make it to the end phase. I didn't really care anymore about the blocks from the previous stages since I now have everything I need to fight the ender dragon. I got attacked by some bees along this journey, but most of it was pretty quick because of the overpowered gear that I had equipped. When I was mining, I kept hearing a cat meowing, so when I peeked over the edge, I realized there was a cat barely hanging on the edge for its life. I built down to it and then went back up to get some of my remaining fish from the chests. When I came back down to feed it, it finally became my cat, so I brought it over to my house and kept her downstairs. This is going to be Merlin's little sister, Luna. When I woke up, I spent the entire day mining, and after getting attacked by the final monster party, which consisted of bees, phantoms, and slimes, I kept mining to finally advance onto the final stage. We have now entered phase 10. The end. The 1 block is now at the end of its life cycle, and the blocks generated are mostly going to be consisted of endstone and purple blocks. The block will now also generate mobs found in the end, such as endermites, shulkers, and endermen. I had a ton of name tags in my chest, so I grabbed them and went over to the anvil to rename all of them. I now had official tags for Riley, Ainsley, Merlin, and Luna. When I started mining, I consistently got endstone and end bricks, which I'm gonna skip over, and I'm not gonna show too much of the mining because it was pretty repetitive, but when the end stage was finally loaded, it destroyed all of my chests below and replaced it with an incomplete end portal. The 1 block was also resetting to a stage where it can spawn any block. I used my Eyes of Ender to complete the end portal, and after a lot of contemplating and being hit by a shulker, I finally jumped in. I spawned outside of the end island and built up to the boss fight. I started out by shooting all of the end crystals, and I managed to do this pretty quickly with my bow. For the one in the cage, I ender pearled up to it and block clutched and then punched it before I water bucketed down. I missed my ender pearl on the next one, so I decided to just shoot it through the gap in the bottom, and all the end crystals were now destroyed. The dragon perched, and I went in through the bottom with my trident to do a ton of damage. I ended up taking about 1/3 of its health, and I used my bow to shoot it. I accidentally threw my trident and missed, and I got really scared because if your trident falls into the void, you're never getting it back. Thankfully, it landed on the edge and it came back to me, and the dragon started to perch again, so I shot it with as many arrows as I could. I then used my trident once again to bring the dragon low, and when it tried launching me away, I water bucketed and kept hitting it with projectiles. It finally perched for one last time, and when it did, I went in for the final hit. The ender dragon was now defeated. I collected all of the XP that dropped from killing the dragon, and instead of heading back to the overworld, I made my way over to the end islands portal so I could explore some end cities. I built up with spruce wood, and when I got up to it, I ender pearled straight in. I spawned on the very edge of a small island, and I could have died very easily right here, so I got super lucky. I then killed some endermen for some ender pearls, and since they weren't aggro towards me for some reason, it made it really easy to gather them. After exploring for a while, I found an end city without a ship and decided to explore it. I didn't really care much about the shulkers, so I did my best to run past them and try to get to the loot as fast as I could. I know end city loot didn't really matter for me since I had enchanted netherite, but I still wanted to see what I could get just for fun. After I made it to the loot, I opened the chest to some pretty garbage items, so I ended up just continuing my journey on finding an end city ship. I explored for another day and finally came across an end city again, this time with a ship in the air. I ran straight up this thing one more time, and when I made it to the main tower, I let the shulkers hit me with levitation to the top. I opened the chests and got a ton of diamonds and diamond gear, but nothing better than what I already had on. The end ship was right below me, so I decided to just ender pearl onto it and loot it. I took the instant health potions from the brewing stand, killed the shulker, and looted the chest. Finally, Finally, I retrieved the elytra from its item frame and used it to safely fly down from the end shape. I then spent the rest of the day on my journey home, and when I enderpearled through the transfer portal, I made it back to the main end island. From here, I crafted a button out of oak planks to place under the dragon egg and finally harvest it. When I entered the end portal once again, I spawned in my house near Merlin and went upstairs to place the dragon egg near my window. Then I built up with spruce wood at the back of my house and used my elytra to fly over top my floating island. I didn't really stick the landing though, and I ended up almost dying, but one of my water sources ended up saving me. I then crafted an item frame and placed it in front of my one block where I placed my elytra. Since I now officially survived 100 days on one block, I just wanted to remind you to subscribe now and hit that like button to help me reach my goal of 10,000 likes. I looked at my sheep farm and oh wait, no!